Imagine waking up and realizing the war is no longer just a war. It is no longer about missiles on a map or military headlines. It has entered your wallet, your fuel tank, your grocery bill, and eventually your kitchen. The most dangerous part is not always the first explosion. It is what happens after the headlines. When oil starts disappearing, diesel gets expensive, shipping slows down, and fertilizer costs jump. Ordinary people discover that modern life is more fragile than it looks. If this war keeps going, what exactly happens next? Before we go further, subscribe to the Hidden Ledger. We break down the hidden systems behind power, money, war, and crisis. Most people think a war between the United States and Iran would mainly be a military story of airstrikes and naval battles. But the deeper risk is supply. Oil, diesel, shipping capacity, and fertilizer. When these systems fail, the crisis moves to households fast. Recent reporting shows oil markets reacting sharply and shipping through the Strait of Hormuz facing severe disruption as military risk grows. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital choke point. Around 1/5 of global petroleum and LNG trade move through that narrow route. The world is watching pressure build around a main valve of the energy system. Once squeezed, everything connected starts feeling it. Oil traders panic before consumers do. Prices move the moment supply looks uncertain. Recently, oil prices surged toward $100 a barrel. Analysts warn that severe disruption could push prices toward $150. Oil is transportation, manufacturing, chemicals, and the cost of moving everything. The story gets more serious with diesel. While gasoline gets the headlines, diesel quietly powers the real economy. Trucks, farms, and ships. Reuters reported U.S. diesel moving above $4 a gallon. Disruptions around Hormuz could threaten major portions of global seaborne diesel supply. That is, when a war stops being over there and starts becoming a cost inside almost everything people buy. It is the first layer. Higher diesel means higher trucking costs, which mean more expensive food deliveries, refrigeration, warehousing, packaging, and processing. If shipping insurance rises, import costs rise too. Insurers are already scrambling over war risk coverage in the Gulf. Once shipping becomes dangerous, it slows confidence. Companies reroute vessels, pay higher premiums, and pass those costs through the chain. Food inflation is not always caused by crop failure. Sometimes it is caused by energy, transport, fertilizer, and fear. Gulf disruption is choking sulfur flows, critical for fertilizer production. Urea fertilizer prices have already surged sharply. When fertilizer costs rise, food does not disappear overnight. But future crop costs go up, and the next round of prices hits harder. Shortages begin with stress inside the system. Energy gets volatile, transport gets expensive, and governments start prioritizing key goods. Then panic buying begins. Weaker countries suffer first. The World Bank warns that global acute food insecurity remains a major problem. This is not happening in a strong world economy. It is happening in a world that is already fragile. The phrase "there is enough oil" is misleading. Strategic stockpiles can cushion a shock, but they do not erase the structure of the crisis. Reserves do not magically fix fertilizer, freight bottlenecks, or lower war risk insurance overnight. Market reaction matters more than political reassurance. Shipping companies and energy markets are already pricing in risk. The Navy has told the shipping industry that escorts are currently not possible. So what happens if the war keeps going? Fuel remains volatile. Diesel becomes the bigger story, rippling across transport and farming. Food inflation shows up clearly. Distribution becomes costly, and agricultural inputs harder to manage. Fragile countries hit first, then the rich. Rich countries feel it through inflation and falling confidence. This is the broader pattern: energy shock, economic slowdown, and systemic pressure. What should ordinary people actually do? Not fear, not panic. Preparation.com. Boring, practical preparation. The biggest mistake is waiting until everyone else notices. Once the crowd reacts, prices move faster and shelves clear. The first thing to do is reduce dependency on last-minute buying. Build a buffer of essentials you already use. The goal is not to prepare for the end of the world. It is to reduce exposure to sudden price spikes and temporary shortages. Second, fuel discipline. Waste becomes expensive. Combine trips. Keep vehicles maintained. Avoid unnecessary consumption. In an energy shock, efficiency becomes a survival skill. Review delivery patterns and transport contracts now, not after the next spike. Third, cash flow protection. Wars create uncertainty. Avoid overextending on non-essential spending while critical costs become harder to forecast. The people who stay calm are those who created margin before the panic reached them. Fourth, information discipline. Watch confirmed indicators: oil, diesel, shipping disruptions, and policy responses. Ignore theatrical claims that everything is fine or that civilization is ending. The truth is usually more dangerous than official calm, but less dramatic. Fifth, understanding sequence. Oil shock does not mean food vanishes tomorrow. It means the system becomes more expensive and sensitive to disruption. People who understand the sequence react intelligently. They buy time, reduce waste, and stay liquid. Modern civilization is not built on abundance alone. It is built on flow. The constant movement of fuel, fertilizer, freight, and food. When a major energy artery comes under pressure, the illusion of infinite convenience starts to crack. That is system risk. If oil and diesel become harder to move and insure, the real crisis is a chain reaction through the economy people rely on every day. The countries with weak margins suffer first, and everyone else discovers that high prices are just shortages with better packaging. The deeper question is whether the systems that feed and move the world can keep functioning under prolonged pressure. This war will be remembered as the moment millions realized how thin the line really is between normal life and supply shock. This matters right now, not when the shelves are empty. Right now, while there is still time to think clearly and prepare quietly. Subscribe to the Hidden Ledger. The biggest crises begin when the systems behind things start to fail, one layer at a time. If this war keeps burning, the next shortage may end in the monthly budget of ordinary families. That is the hidden ledger of war. By the time everyone can see it, the damage is already underway.